these 400 or 500 years nearly that can be characterized as the history of the self-addressing of the human being as a subject. As a subject, that means simply as something else than only an object. Of course, we all know and that there's this object part of the human subject. We all are affected by or determined by structures we do not control. And the philosophy of the 20th century, I would say, after Nietzsche, with Nietzsche and after Nietzsche pointed that out, that there's this object status of the human subject in its world, in its reality. And so what is reality and what is the world we live in, this zone of communication and information that we call our reality. So I call it in my vocabulary the texture or the universe of facts. And as you know, the very function of this concept of facts is to insist on a kind of consistency of the facts of reality. So when we refer to facts, we refer to something supposed being consistent. And this is the very sense or meaning of the concept of reality itself. So sometimes we say, come back to the ground of reality, and that simply means come back to the facts, come back to the consistent universe of facts. And I would say that the philosophical claim, of course, is a philosophy, in fact, has to interrogate the status of this universe of facts, has to interrogate the reality status of reality, because reality, as you know, is a kind of fiction with truth value. Reality has a function, the concept of reality has a function, the concept of facts has a function, and I would say the function precisely is in supposing or in insisting on a kind of ontological stability of the so-called reality. And so how defining the position, the ontological position of the human subject within this framework of this universe of facts. So the universe of facts, of course, is in a way this socially or politically, biologically overdetermined reality space, the world we live in. And and there's no exit out of this one world, there's no second world, there's no world behind. So in the horizon of this ontological atheism, if you want, we have to deny the existence of a second world, of a kind of world after death, for example. So if there's only this one world, we have to interrogate the ontological stability of this one world, and we have to interrogate also the position of the human subject in its world. And so, does it make sense to define the human being as a subject in its world? As I said, of course, the human being appears as an object of determinations, as an object of historical, social, political determinations that nobody of us is controlling or controls by 100%. So nobody decided being born by these parents in that cultural field at that historical time, and so on. So, of course, the human subject appears in its world first as a kind of object of this texture of facts that he does not control. And I would say that the philosophy of the 20th century in general started to insist excessively on this object status of the human subject. That means on the status of the human subject as being objectively unfree in this order of objective unfreedom that is reality. And so there is a kind of deconstruction of the category of the subject, like you know, not only in Jacques Derrida, but of course it starts with Nietzsche, I would say, it starts with Heidegger in the 20th century. And but then you can see that all these different philosophers of philosophy of the 20th century, like also Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari later, they all invented their own idea concerning the very inconsistency of the human subject in its world. So there is this concept introduced by Maurice Blanchot, for example, this French writer and philosopher, who used this term of le dehors in French, the exterior, I think is the English translation. And the sense of this notion is to mark the very inconsistency of this field of established consistencies that is the universe of facts. So in classical philosophy, in modern philosophy, German idealism, in this movement of subject philosophy, or this history of modern philosophy, the singular or ontake or empirical subject appears as a subject, or is defined as a subject, because it makes part of, or it is connected to a kind of universal subjectivity, or let's say with Kant and later Edmund Husserl, transcendental subjectivity. So the sense of this concept of the transcendental subjectivity is simply to mark a universal being, an already given being, a given substance, a universal substance that already defines what the singular subject is. So each ontake or empiric subject is a subject because of its participation to a pre-given structure that is transcendental subjectivity, this universal being that is called transcendental subjectivity. Later, like you know, a philosopher like Althusser, and in this period of so-called structuralism, the philosophy of the 20th century, invented another concept, this idea that the subject, there is a subjectivity without a subject. So there is this anonymous structure that I call the universe of facts, and the subject is a kind of illusion, a kind of phantasm, a kind of affect, a kind of passive affect that emerges passively in a way, and being overdetermined by this universe, by this texture of facts. So against this, in a certain way, I would like to introduce another concept concerning the idea of this category of the subject, and this is the subject without subjectivity. So if classical philosophy is defining the human being as a subject connected to a pre-given substance, nature, essence, structure like a transcendental subjectivity, against this I would insist on there is a subject, but it is a subject without subjectivity. It is a subject without essence, without pre-given nature and essence. So it is a subject that finds itself in this demanding situation to invent its own essence, its own nature, so its own subjectivity. And as you know, a philosopher like Jean-Paul Sartre, who is the philosopher of freedom and the philosopher of responsibility in 20th century philosophy, and maybe in a way also the philosopher of courage, because it needs courage to affirm yourself as the subject of this kind of hyperbolic responsibility or hyperbolic freedom, which, like Sartre is defining it. So there's this formula that Sartre invented, like you know, l'existence précède l'essence. It finds itself in this demanding situation to invent its own essence, its own nature, so its own subjectivity. And as you know, a philosopher like Jean-Paul Sartre,